All right. All right. Lex and Pete show. It is week 7. We are now recording during the Saints and Jaguars Thursday night game. Special edition here. It is the 3rd edition of our tiers / power rankings. Slippery Pete is not here. He's on a well-deserved vacation. In his place, we have Zach Bowen, the owner of the Zits. And then we have your boy Gelo, Hillel Sharpton, half owner of the Most Athletic Sons. They are joining us for these tiers. We wanted to have one guy on as a guest anyways. I wanted to have Gelo on as a guest, and then Bowen, we also wanted to get him on to talk about the big trade that went down. We'll get into all that in our tiers in a second. First, we'll start with a word from our sponsors. As always, Sundog Multimedia. Sundog is an online communication and social media company. What started as a personal tool has since evolved into something much bigger, allowing users to communicate, research, and discover things that impact their lives and daily decisions. Sundog will collaborate with you to build and execute a modern yet nimble social media strategy by utilizing innovative and traditional media principles. Sundog is also a proud supporter of the Stop Soldier Suicide Foundation. You can follow them at Sundog_multimedia on Instagram. That is Instagram at Sundog_multimedia. Brains, brawn, and true professionalism. That's easy peasy moving and service. Muscle for hire, moving, assembly, errands, you name it, they will do it. Easy Peasy is a multi-service team. If you need something, just ask. Like I said, it's a special edition. Glad to have you guys on here. I think we have you on here for multiple reasons. I mean, I think starting with it, we all three of us made some trades. Bowen and I, of course, made a massive trade. One that I think maybe rocked the league a little bit, and then Angelo, you guys made a trade that it's maybe not as blockbuster as the one that we made, but I think it's a move that we've been waiting on you to make. Waller's a guy that we've been waiting on you to trade away for some time. How about we start with that one? So you finally traded away Darren Waller. This was something that actually came across my desk. I was catching wind of a potential trade here. It was between you, Wallace, and Simcoe. Essentially, you guys just swapped tight ends amongst each other and then threw in some other stuff on top. You ended up trading Darren Waller to Wallace. Wallace got Waller. You got Dawson Knox, and then Simcoe got Evan Ingram, and then you got some picks on top of that? I don't have the pick.
I got a 2024 second round pick, which is pretty nice to get into the second round of next year's draft, which I did not have previously.
Exactly. So as I said, I think this is really, maybe it's not as big a move, and maybe 2 years ago it would have been, a pretty big trade to trade Waller. That's kind of when he was really peaking. But it was just a move that we've been waiting on you to make, waiting for you to get a little bit younger. Dawson Knox is a guy, of course, the Bills did bring in Kincaid, but Dawson Knox is a guy that still has a role. They play 2 different positions, even though they're both tight ends. So he's more in line. He's more of the blocking guy. Kincaid, he's going to be going out wide a little bit more, playing more of that big slot, kind of that big receiver role that we see, maybe more tight ends coming into the league starting to play. But Knox, I mean, he's a guy that he got paid by Buffalo. I know that he's well liked in Buffalo. I know that him and Josh Allen are best buddies. So he's a guy that, he might not have that star power. He definitely can with like touchdowns. He can pop for a top 10 season, but he's always going to be in that tier of guys where it's like, they all kind of put up about the same. You can pencil them in for about the same each week. So that's a steady tight end that you guys have. What are your thoughts? What kind of went into you finally pulling the trigger on getting rid of Waller, and then how are you feeling about Knox, and then also that pick that you're getting on top of him?
Yeah, the goal with moving Waller was maybe not to get better off the rip in terms of like what we were going to get for instant gratification, but to get younger and to get a chance at another second round pick. I'm really high on second round picks after what we did last season, or last draft, I should say. Getting A-Chain and Rice in the second round. So it leads me to believe there's some really good talent out there. And with Dawson Knox, I'm never going to wish injury on someone like Kincaid, but like I hope one of the two of them gets traded and they're their own, individual tight ends, right? because I think both of them they have potential. But yeah, Dawson Knox and Josh Allen are best buddies. So that was, like, I'll take something okay right now. It's better than any other option I have at tight end. But, getting younger and getting rid of Waller is a good feeling.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So Knox's contract, he has a potential out after 2024. So I feel like if Kincaid does break out as he's expected to do, that will probably be we'll probably see that happen. So he'll get cut and then maybe go on and find a different team, or maybe he'll just get traded and save some cap space or something like that. So, yeah, I don't think that the door's closed on Dawson Knox at all. Like I said, he still gets on the field plenty, and he's always a touchdown threat when they're close to the goal line. So he always has his value, and it's one of those where, people always say if you don't have one of like the top 3, 4, 5 tight ends, then you might as well just have anybody. So that gives you a steady guy that you can plug into your lineup whenever, and then also getting that pick. Bowen, how are you feeling? As a friend of Gelo, finally seeing him start to commit to getting younger and getting rid of these guys.
Yeah, I think just in a general sense for all three teams involved, it was one of those rare trades where, especially three-team trades, I feel like there's always that one lacking end. And maybe three teamers are usually a little bit more, a little bit bigger of trades. This one was pretty clear cut, understood it for everyone. On the Gelo end, I'm definitely good to get younger. I don't think you're gonna miss Waller really at all this year. For where he's at, and just in the general dynasty sense, like Kieran said. I mean, if you don't have one of those top guys, it's all kind of the same. You're kind of fighting for scraps. And Waller in that Giants offense is, it's pretty bad right now. So week to week, I don't think you'll feel it. Long term, you definitely won't feel it. You'll only be happy that you have that second in 9 months or whatever it is. So yeah, like the trade for everybody, all sides. It makes sense. Good with it.
Yeah, something I found interesting, a scoop that I picked up. So I was talking to Simcoe when this thing was starting to kind of come together, and he just gave me a little taste of what was maybe to come, and he just sent me the offer, but there was nothing. It was just the screenshot of the actual offer, like it hadn't been made, nobody had accepted it yet, anything like that. And my first reaction was that I didn't think that Wallace was going to be interested. I was like, I can't imagine Wallace would want Waller. I mean, he's got Hawkinson, he's got Ingram. Why would he make a move for a tight end like that? And then Simcoe said, no, Wallace, like this is like his guy. He wants Waller. So that shocked me a little bit. I mean, I feel like you have two young tight ends like Hawkinson and Ingram. I just hold on to them. And I don't really feel like that was maybe the best return for Ingram, getting, an aging Waller that's, I mean, what's he really?
But there is something like oddly intoxicating about Darren Waller. I don't know if it's that he's handsome, has a lot of tattoos.
Got great
Less
skin.
than life.
It's something. There's something to it. There's always that chance that he just goes fucking crazy like he has in the past. And I can kind of see that upside play for Wallace, even though I think Evan Ingram is probably the best player in this trade. At the
Yeah, that's
moment,
what surprised me.
wise.
Personally, I'm an Ingram over Hawkinson guy, to be honest. I mean, I understand that Hawkinson could put up these massive weeks, but I feel like on an overall level, it's kind of the same as George Kittle. And I was talking about this with Angelo last night, I think, actually, but Kittle's a guy where it's like, for the most part, he's going to put up like really mild weeks. Like he's not going to put up massive points, but he possesses the ability to go off for 60 yards and 3 touchdowns and give you enough points to win you the week on his own. So Hawkinson kind of has that same feel to him where he might just go off for 120 yards or a multi-touchdown game and really pop. But I'd honestly take kind of the stability that Evan Ingram provides. And I'm looking right now, and Evan Ingram is sneaky old. He's 29. So, he's not much younger than Waller, but I feel like he's kind of peaking right now. And Waller is clearly on the, other side of things. So, yeah, it was a surprising move for Wallace, but I guess it's maybe fair value for what he's trying to get. Maybe he's just trying to stockpile some picks and he saw an opportunity to get it that way. So, interesting trade. And then, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good get for Simcoe as well. Him going out and getting Evan Ingram. He wanted to make a move for a tight end, so he finally did that. So, interesting to see how it plays out. I guess it's really, it's a bench move for Wallace. It's a move to acquire some picks and get younger for Angelo. And then for Simcoe, this should provide somewhat of an immediate impact. So interesting to see if it'll be enough to get Simcoe over the hump. But all right, let's move on to the big one. Bowen, me and you, we made a big trade. Trying to pull up the official details here. Okay, here we go. So I traded Tua and my 26 second rounder. And in return, I got Anthony Richardson, the Go Tigers 24 second rounder, and Josh Palmer. Bowen, you kind of want to start us off and just talk about, how this kind of came together, because it came together pretty fast.
Yeah, I think there was maybe maximum 15 texts between one another. I don't think we really had it on our radar, and then I put it out into the air, and I think your immediate reaction made me feel really confident, so I kept kind of pushing a little bit, and it really does just make sense for both situations. I love Anthony Richardson to death, but like I had kind of said to you, if I'm gonna send my baby boy anywhere, it's gonna be to KB. That's my guy. I'm always rooting for Kieran. He's close ally of mine. Appreciate him. So getting him Anthony Richardson for that long term play when this is kind of a lost year, and getting me to that immediate spark into my offense that I think I need. Can't really go into every week starting Purdy and Geno long term. It just doesn't seem like a winning formula. So had to get a QB1, and I think I got one.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it really came together fast. Tua was definitely not a guy that I was ever looking to shop. And even when you reached out, I told you, I was like, I really just need time to think about it. Like, I'm not going around shopping him to anybody else, because there really aren't many guys that I think are worth it to try and really upgrade from Tua. Because one thing that I kept in mind was, when I was really thinking, I was like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Was Tua's 25 going on 26, I believe. He might be 26 going on 27, but something like that, right? So he's still young, right? He's not even like really approaching 30 yet. He's still coming up on his second contract. He still has to get that. So he still has a lot of football left to play. But the thing was, Anthony Richardson was a guy that I was high on. He had already popped, right? To me, he has already broken out. He has shown that he is a good NFL quarterback. But he went down with injury. And literally that morning, I was thinking to myself how I got Kyler Murray in a trade where I got him in the bargain bin because he's out for the rest of the year with the injury, all that shit. And I was able to get a top tier dynasty quarterback for so cheap. And I was like, I should just look at other people's rosters and see who's on the IR right now and see if there are any good opportunities for me to try and pull that off. And that wasn't just for quarterback. I'm talking running back, receiver, any position. Like if I saw an opportunity to do that, I should just take that opportunity. And then it's almost like the fantasy gods heard that and they just, sent a signal to you, and then you texted me and you proposed that. And yeah, it's like I said, I knew right away that I was probably going to accept that offer. It really just came down to like, do I have the balls to do it? And am I going to trade away Tua? Because we know how much I vouched for Tua. I bought him so low. I mean, on this very show, I spent so much time defending him, so much energy defending him, especially against Slippery Pete. So whatever. I mean, he's even come around on Tua. So, I think it was just time to let him go. And then I think I've also kind of managed my team from a value standpoint and just looking at what I got Tua for, which was Derek Carr and Kareem Hunt. And that was 2 years ago. The fact that I flipped that to get Anthony Richardson, who fittingly was taken with my draft pick by you. I felt like it was a good move. I got a little bit younger at running back. Or at quarterback, maybe a Freudian slip there. But I also, gave myself maybe a bigger ceiling there. To get Anthony Richardson, I have a potential fantasy unicorn. And then you got a guy that can help you try and win right now. And I think that was the exact quarterback that you needed for your playoff push. Angela, what were your thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, you just started going into it. I think this team is perfect for both of you guys in the sense of Bowen's trying to win now. It's him and the two pins of the world. They're looking like they're the championship matchup. So for Bowen to get that firepower of Tua, who is looking at an MVP season, and for you, KB, Tua was kind of, the shining star on a maybe lackluster team in terms of what you're trying to do this year. And if your goal is to tank and not have the most points for, Tua was hurting you in that regard. So to get Anthony Richardson, and at first it was like maybe he's out till week 11, but now he's out the rest of the season. That's no harm on you, right? That's no added points for, and that's going to help you get a better position. And then you're going to come into next year with, Richardson and Kyler, you're poising yourself to be in a good position here. So I think that was a great move by both of you. It was both of you losing your baby boys, but I know if you're going to swap, it's going to be between the two of you. So I think it worked out great.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing that actually did come into my mind was, well, I'm looking at my division and I was just thinking it's like one team that like I just like cannot beat is Wallace. And right now he's way above where my team's at. Like it's not like I'm necessarily just chasing him, but I am thinking for the future. And I think that next year I'll be much more competitive with my quarterbacks back and healthy. And I was thinking it's like whenever Tua goes off, it's because Tyreek and or Jalen Waddle are going off as well. And that's a team that I play twice a year in my division. And at some point I want to try and compete for that division. And that makes it tough in those matchups when all of a sudden Tua's putting up 40 points, but Tyreek's putting up 45 and Waddle has like 27 of his own. I mean, last year when Tua had that huge game against Baltimore, that huge comeback, I couldn't even win the game because all those touchdowns were going to like Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle caught the game winning touchdown. So it absolutely killed me. So that was like something that did kind of like go into my mindset as well. And then something that also kind of eased me was when I was thinking about Cam Newton, right? And I think that is such an easy comparison to make for Anthony Richardson. In my mind, Cam Newton's run was much shorter than it actually was. I thought that Cam Newton had like 5 good years and he was out. And then we were counting it last night, Angela. He had like on just a per game basis, because he did miss some time with injuries here and there. He had like, an 11 game season, a 13 game season, but on a per game basis, he's putting up 20 points a game. He was an elite fantasy quarterback for 8 straight seasons from his rookie year. He had multiple top 3 finishes, finishes the QB1, I think, at least once, I think twice. So it's like I'm looking at it from that standpoint as well. I mean, Anthony Richardson is young as hell. If I can kind of just hopefully pencil him in to be this productive on a per game basis until he's at least 30, then sign me up. I felt like, yeah, exactly. It was a great move for Bowen and all that, and then it was a great move for me. And then one thing too with like Tua was like I was just worried, at least when I'm trying to maximize my potential. It's like Richardson, right? He can throw for shit, but then, save his game completely on the ground. We saw that with Justin Fields last year. We've seen him do it a little bit this year as well. And, Tua, he can still, because he is more of a pocket passer. He's not mobile. So he can still have his games where he puts up, say, 15 points or 12 points or something. And, for me, it's like, I can, take it on the chin and just suck right now. So why not take that risk on Richardson and try and get that upside and then, get my boy something that can, help him, make that push and, give him that next quarterback. So like you said, he doesn't have to rely on Purdy and Geno Smith now. So, Bowen, you got anything else you want to add on to that trade?
No, I just think for your team, like next year you said you hope your 2 QBs can kind of lead you to some fantasy success. And I mean, look at Simcoe's team with the two running quarterbacks. If you can sort of replicate that, you can kind of be a little bit lighter in some other areas on any given week. If you have that 2 20-point score quarterbacks plus with that rushing upside is just it's a real tough matchup every week. Every week you got to play a team like that. That's why Simcoe's so dangerous. So I like the idea. The vision's there. I know the vision's a very used term on this show, but your vision is there. I like it.
And I want to throw this in. We were talking about this last night, and this might be a whole other segment or episode. But if we redrafted the rookie draft today, KB has 2 of the top 5 picks. He's got Richardson and Jordan Addison. So I think it's all shaping up. It's all going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I just I've said it a couple times on this show too, where it's like I just gotta take it on the chin. Except yeah, I'm gonna suck. Yeah, I don't have my pick, so it's kind of all for naught. But at the same time, in a way, I'm kind of tanking to get Kyler Murray. I'm tanking to get Anthony Richardson back, all that stuff. So I just gotta sit here and wait. And yeah, I'm not actually making it pick in like the top 3 or the top 5 or the first overall, but I'm essentially getting that value back next year. So I hope to throw my hat in the ring next year, be a lot more competitive, and we'll see how it all plays out. But I think that this does bring Bowen into maybe that top tier, and I guess maybe that's a good segue to just get right into the power rankings. You guys ready? Should we hop over?
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right.
So now, when you do the power rankings like this, do you pull up last? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. We got last week's to work off of. We can kind of do whatever we want. So if we want to move a team into a tier that already exists, we can do that. If we want to create a new tier for somebody, we can also do that. I don't know. Do you guys want to just pick ones at random? Do you want to just start from the top? Maybe we can. I would like to hear Angelo try and sell his way out of the Jeff Fisher tier. Maybe we could save that for the very end.
Got to be out of there. We have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be out of there.
Yeah, how about we save that for the very end? That can kind of be our finale. Let's just start at the top then. Let's just go right from the top. Maybe we can. It doesn't have to be by team or by tier. We can just kind of focus on this area and pick teams however we want. Let's just start off with the reigning half champs, though. I did bring them into question last episode when we were talking about the power rankings, and I changed it from the standard to the standard because I was feeling like their grip on the league was slipping a little bit. I do think that they responded nicely. They had a big week coming off of that. They really shut me up. They went out, they made that trade for Alvin Kamara. Should we keep the question mark there? Do we feel like the league's starting to catch up to them, or do we think that maybe they've reestablished themselves at the top? What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't even know if they had to really reestablish themselves necessarily at the top. I mean, I think you put the question mark there to kind of bring a little bit of spark to the top of the board. But in my opinion, I mean, just they really can't be moved until somebody of note beats them. Are they 5-1 this year?
Yeah, 5-1. They just put up coming off the last 2 weeks. So since I called them out, they responded by putting up 131 points and then 114 last week.
Yep. Yeah.
And they beat the Zits head to head, which I mean, it doesn't really do anything for the standings, but it's still nice to have that on your resume.
Definitely. So yeah, I mean, I mean they can't move them. I would take away the question mark, just in the general sense. But also, this is your tier.
Yeah,
so,
no, I agree with you. I think that they've kind of they heard my message loud and clear. They responded. I think that they earned having the question mark removed. I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I think they got out of that with that Kamara trade, because I think if it goes the other way and they make the trade and they get Kyron and then he's out, then they're literally looking like, all right, what the fuck? Now we're missing some running backs here. So I think they've gotten over that hump.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, we'll keep them at the top. It really is just, I mean, they'll probably just be up there all year. Until we, at some point have a new champion named. I don't know if that'll be after this year. Maybe they'll stay up here until next year or something as well. But until somebody takes that crown, they're going to stay on the top. So let's move down. So we could start with the Zits here, but I do want to talk about this tier a little bit more. I say that we leave the Zits here. The Zits, they went out, they made their move. Of course, we just talked about the Tua trade. I think that definitely strengthens the team, and I think that should increase their title odds. We can't really move them any higher. I don't know if you guys have any name change that you want to have to the tier, but right now I think that the Zits are still the team to beat. They did just lose to 2 pins, so maybe that's not the right name for the tier, but I don't know if you guys have any reads. Bowen, how are you feeling about your team, your position in the league?
Yeah, no, so I don't want to I don't want to take myself out of that spot. I think it's like you said, with that Tua trade, if I hadn't made that trade and I was kind of I just had A-Rich in the IR, things are looking a little bit bleaker, obviously. So I think that Tua trade kind of gives me enough momentum to stay there. But I don't want to jump around too much. But since we're at the tier, I don't know if the team to beat is necessarily the right. I think contenders for this tier, or I don't know what.
Well, so here's what I'm proposing, because I mean I feel like we've already kind of covered your team, so we don't have to go over everything after we just did all the trade talk and stuff. I do want to bring another team into the discussion here, and I think it's a team that we've been talking about a lot, and we might just be bumping this tier all the way up there. I think that we should move Wallace and the Time Is Now tier up there with you and merge it.
That's exactly. I was
going to say those are the two scariest teams to run into that are not 2 pins each week. Those teams have home run hitters on them. So
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Let's see
my long-winded attempt at getting that out didn't work. So thank you for thank you for getting that out for me.
Yeah, so because I didn't want to just totally gloss over your team, but that was definitely where I was trying to take this discussion. And I mean, this is now 2 power rankings in a row where it's we've been just eager to talk about Wallace's team, and I feel like he's really had the momentum building up. Of course, he's just been putting together weeks and weeks and weeks of just dominance. He just seems to be the team that's really cruising right now. I feel like everybody's started to take notice. Feels like multiple owners around the league are all saying, just give him the title now. And it does feel like he's, he has won the early season championship. I think that he's, a lot of people's maybe dark horse right now. Maybe their sneaky value pick, because I think the money should still be on two pins until it's not, like we said. But I mean, this is the team that a lot of people fear. I think, I don't know why I didn't switch. I think I'm going to keep the Zits ahead of them in the tier. The Zits, you're still a division winner, so you can still get that top 3 seed. Right now, Wallace, he is chasing behind Big Brain. He's got a couple games to make up. So for now, at least, I'm keeping the Zits ahead of them. I don't know if you guys have any objections to that, or anything to add on with Wallace's team.
Good.
Yeah, good there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at his last couple weeks. This last month, he's gone 128, 129, 142, 129. I don't have the stats in front of me, but something tells me that's probably leading the league. And if not, it's like a narrow second. So he's putting up a crazy amount of points. We've talked about it plenty of times, but the fact that Stroud is stepping up in this way, I mean, he's even gotten good production out of Josh Dobbs. And then, guys like Pacheco being able to stick around, and then just the young receivers that he has, and just the receiving talent that he has. It's just a great team.
We really might. I said it in one of our group chats, but we really might need Tyreek to die on the field if there's any chance of really beating Wallace on a week-to-week basis. If Tyreek is humming the way he is, it's pretty much. I mean, it's not impossible to beat Wallace, but when he's going like that, it's really.
I will say,
really cool.
We are in the third quarter of the Thursday night game, and ETN is outscoring Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley. So there is a chance the most athletic Suns could make a little bit of noise here against Wallace this week. There is a chance, but then there is a chance. There is a chance that Tyreek Hill goes for 50 points. So, yeah.
Hey, Jeff Fisher won a lot of games in the NFL. People forget.
That's true. I mean, hey, right now you're only projected to lose by 3. I mean, so if ETN, the Jags are getting up, the Saints, they are kind of knocking on the door. But I mean, if the Jags go, maybe a little bit more run heavy in that fourth quarter, run that clock out, that could be good for you. So, all right. I think we can kind of leave that tier at that. I don't think that there are any other teams that have, maybe earned this right. Naturally, let's just go down to this next tier. What are we going to say about Big Brain, right? I mean, I guess, they did just put up an absolute stinker. I just outscored them this last week. I think I had 75 points. They had 70. So they're coming off a bad week. I mean, both their quarterbacks did get hurt in the matchup. We know that they have insane quarterback depth from a quantity standpoint, not necessarily from a quality standpoint. We counted up tonight. We got a nice quick meal with Jeremy tonight. They have 10 quarterbacks on their roster. They got 8 on the active roster. They have 1 on the IR. They have 1 on the taxi squad. Almost none of them are really desired starting quarterbacks in our fantasy league. So it's a lot of bulk that they have at the position. They are looking to bounce back. Christian McCaffrey also got hurt last week. I mean, of course, they still have their running backs. They got Eckler back. They still got great receivers. Devontae Adams demanding the ball more, so that probably means a big week coming for him. What are we really going to say about Big Brain? I think that they're just going to stay here until they can prove they can win a playoff game. I think that they will be – that's pretty much a guarantee. Big Brain will be in the Omaha tier until they win a playoff game. That could be, a couple months from now. That could be a couple of years from now. We'll see. The challenge is on them. You guys got anything to add about Big Brain?
No. I mean, you really summed it up. They have massive talent at the top. A pretty shaky amount of depth. It's never never looking too good on their bench at any given time, especially with bye week starting. The quarterback situation, the bit of having 10 quarterbacks on the roster kills me. Don't want to move them. Don't want to move them too far. I mean, the Omaha, I guess, tier is its own enigma. It's really its own, its own thing. So, you can't move them out until they prove it in the playoffs. So, Big Brain stays.
Angela, you got any shots you want to get on Big Brain? Not shots. I mean, I think every team that we've talked about in these top 4, they all have a duo that is just, you can't deny it. And with them, it's McCaffrey and Eckler. Are they going to stay healthy the whole way through?
Yeah.
We'll see. They went out and they just made a big a big trade, quote unquote, for Gardner Minshew, and he's only to be benched. And they have Kenny Pickett playing, a guy who I wouldn't even take when I was in shambles at the beginning of the season. So it's interesting to see how it's going to play out for them. I think Jordan Love is kind of that guy, and we'll see if he's really that guy. But if not, it's back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really the same song and dance that we see every year. And that's why, Pete initially, when we started these tiers, wanted to rank them pretty high. And I mean, we still have them ranked fourth. So we're not really disrespecting them. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's just exactly what we see every year where they put up the big numbers. They do everything in the regular season, and then, injuries eat away at them. Their depth can't really hang. And then they fall off. So, I mean, we were even talking about it. They're 5-0 right now. They got a decent lead on the division. I think it's at least 2 games. Of course, there's a lot of time left to change that, but they just have like really good matchups too. They've been the beneficiary of not having to score a ton of points to win. They've had some good wins just over bad teams and everything like that. So there maybe is a little bit of fool's gold with the undefeated record there. So it'll be interesting to see how it folds out as we get maybe more variability over the rest of the season. So I think Wallace will put in a good effort, and same with Simcoe to try and catch up to them for that division lead. So it'll be a lot to watch. But all right, let's move on to the next tier. So we got this next one. This feels like kind of a boring tier to me as well. I don't think there's much to add right now. I think maybe we can debate who's over who. But right now we have the Chasing Greatness tier. Maybe I don't know if we want to change the name at all, but we have the Occasional Vibers, and then behind them we have the Bussey Boys ranked. So of course we were talking about Simcoe earlier. Him and the Bussey Boys, they did make that trade for Evan Ingram. I do think that was a good move for him. Of course, as I was saying, he was telling me that he was in pursuit of a tight end. So that could have been Waller for himself. That could have been Ingram. That could have been him trying to get Mark Andrews, anything like that. He settled on Ingram. That's a guy that I've said that I'm very high on. I like the floor, the steady floor that he provides. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to this. Angela, what do you think of this tier?
I mean, I think Simcoe is my competition for the rest of the season. I'm gunning for him for the 6th spot because I'm looking at it. Oh yeah, stamp it right now for sure. I love Simcoe, and I wasn't even going to mess with the 3-team trade once I found out it was a 3-team trade. Yeah, I mean he's got a good team. We'll see how it all falls. There's some pieces that could go left or right, but I think he's got a good squad, and I think he's deserving of being in that tier of chasing greatness, because he is chasing greatness. He's not quite great, but he's got a shot.
Yeah, and I think it's fair actually to keep them ranked in this order as well. And the casual viewer might be a little surprised by your little call out of Simcoe, but when you look at the numbers, really, I mean, you're 50 points behind him in points for. So like you're really not that far out. And you also have to think about some of the points that you've left on your bench. I mean, if you if you had started A-Chain and then some of those weeks where you had him on the bench, you'd be ahead of Simcoe right now, probably, right? So not to, maybe that's rubbing a little salt in the wound or something like that, but you have a lot of time to make things up. And I mean, if Simcoe doesn't start picking up the scoring, then, you really do have a good opportunity to catch up to him. And then also, comparing Simcoe, who has 686 points, the Vibers, they're at 635. So, they are in a tier of their own right now, or a little bit, maybe a tier above, a half tier above, I should say. So I keep them ranked above Simcoe right now. Simcoe, you should not get too comfortable. We were talking the last couple of weeks about how it felt like there was a clear divide, 6-6. Maybe those waters are getting a little bit more muddied, and maybe, if you're that 6 seed or even that 5 seed, you should not be feeling comfortable like you're already locked in this early in the season. Bowen, you were hooting and hollering when Angelo called him out. What are you thinking of that?
No, I love it. I think everyone, I think the guy that we're talking about himself actually had texted me this past week, saying it feels like there's 6 teams that are just locked in, and then I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, it's only going into week 7. 50 points on a week-to-week basis like that with so much time left really isn't anything like you said. But kind of just looking at the teams and how they're laid out right now in these tiers. Big Brain. We were at dinner with Jeremy tonight. Didn't want to show my hand too much, but I knew good and well coming in that I was going to be a absolute hater of Big Brain. We talked about it briefly with the Omaha tier. I would prefer both the Vibers and the Bussey boys over Big Brain the rest of the season. I think the Omaha tier is elusive. I just don't believe in the quarterbacks at all. Me and Big Brain have a long history. Sometimes I think the hate wasn't so deserving. They've always kind of been a wagon. This year feels a little different, and it's directly correlated to those quarterbacks. Just the overall vibe of the team with Chubb going out. I think they're a step below Vibers and Bussy boys.
I have no objections to that. That wasn't something that I came in here thinking. I guess maybe it might have crossed my mind at one point, but I had never really thought of that too seriously. But now that you say it, I think you make a good point. I mean, even to points that I was making and not even realizing. But like I said, I feel like that 5-0 record is fool's gold. They haven't been dominating the same way that we think. Yeah, sure, they're still putting up, a healthy amount of points, but we did just see them put up 70 points. We know that their quarterback situation is kind of hell right now. And then we're already starting to see McCaffrey get banged up. I mean,
right. And let's look at the chasing greatness tier. I mean, it's a quarterback, driven league. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson in that tier. I think, it'd be a crime to not have them over the Omaha tier, who's starting Zach Wilson and Kenny Pickett and Gardner Minshew, whoever they're starting week to week. I just, it feels wrong to leave chasing greatness.
And this is actually on me for not doing the proper research. I'm looking at the points for right now. Big Brain has one less point than Simcoe does. They're 5-0. They're division leaders. So right now they're slotted in to be the 3 seed. They're actually being outscored by Simcoe. I mean, so if they do lose this division lead, Angela, you might want to add Big Brain onto that list, because if Wallace or Simcoe are able to catch up to them, that's a team that you're suddenly chasing as well. They're not far ahead of you at all.
I agree, but in going back to paying respect to Simcoe, like I said, his team has got some studs. Hurts and Lamar is definitely the second to the standard with Mahomes and Jay Herbo. I can't see anyone debating that.
They're arguably one. I mean, arguably.
Yeah, I think they have a good argument for that.
Fantasy football.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm gonna bump the chasing greatness tier up above the Omaha tier.
It just looks better too. It looks better.
Yeah, I mean that really shakes things up. I mean, that sends them all the way from 4 to 6, and I mean, I guess maybe we are just projecting things out a little bit, but I do think it's a storyline to watch. If Big Brain starts letting that division lead go, they could be in some serious trouble. They're in a very, very weird spot right now. All right, let's move on to the next one. Division. I don't know. I don't think that we're going to be moving them up or down. I don't think we're really going to be changing the title of this tier. I don't know. You guys got any thoughts on Pete?
Pete's Pete.
Pete's team is infinitely better than than it chalked up to be in the preseason. They're solid. He's got solid talent on this team for this season right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's he's in that spot, and it was kind of like we had seen from Wallace last year too, where he's kind of in the middle, but he really doesn't have to commit either way, because he has his pick. He also has my pick. He's not, it's an uphill battle to sneak into the playoffs right now, but I mean, if he can do it, then why not? Right. I mean, you already have that top pick kind of locked up, so why not go for it? It's like, so what if your pick isn't 6 and it's 7 or 8 instead? Right. Because you never know what can happen when you get into it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what we expected coming into the season, where any given Sunday, Pete's team can compete, because I mean, when you got Bijan and Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman and Garrett Wilson and CeeDee Lamb, like, of course you can put up big weeks. But yeah, once those bye weeks start to kick in, it does get a little tough there. It puts his team in danger of putting up not many points at all. And then just over the course of the season, that adds up, and that typically keeps you out of that playoff picture. But I mean, he's in a good spot where he can have fun, and he's also tanking as well. So, I don't think there's too much to add there. He definitely needs the quarterbacks to step up. We need to actually see that Deshaun Watson is back to being who he is. He has not shown that at all. Bryce Young has a lot to show. So until then, they're kind of in that QB purgatory that we've seen hold teams back. So, with my pick, that he has right now. I mean, he can definitely make a good move at quarterback if he needs to. That could be his true position of need. And then he also has, the assets if he has to make a move for somebody else and try and get another quarterback. I think that he can pull it off. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much to add to Pete's team. I think that he should stay here. I think it's still division. I don't know if you guys have any more thoughts before we move on.
No, I like it. I
All
like
right.
it. I like Pete there.
All right, let's move on. I think this is one that we can have some discussion on. Maybe we could talk about a tier name change. We got Go Tigers, Josh Winsper, Mikey Bowen. A team that people love to talk about, a team that people have a lot of thoughts on. Right now, Mikey, this past week, he did put Joe Burrow on the block. He asked for, a pretty insane price, but, no criticism to him. That's a very valuable dynasty piece. You might as well set the market. If you can get an insane bag for him, then, you got to consider it. But anything less, it's worth holding on to him. He said he wanted, what was it? Four first worthy players, which I took as meaning first 4 players. So it could be the pick, it could be the player. And then he wanted picks on top of that. So I guess maybe that would mean second and thirds as filler, or maybe he truly wants 4 nasty players and first rounders on top. That wouldn't surprise me at all. We all know Mikey. He can be a bit nuts when it comes to this stuff. So, but I propose a tier name change. I mean, he is still in running back hell, but I feel like that was more for teams that were trying to compete. I feel like it doesn't really matter anymore. He has his own pick back. He can stay in running back hell if he wants, but I think it's more of just the the do it tier. I almost wish I could use like the clip of Gus Fring saying that to Walt White, right? Or Walt White when he's talking about putting the monitor on his car, where it's like, dude, just jump into the rebuild, just do it, just come on home. It's like telling a bald guy to finally shave his head, all that shit. It's like, just trade these pieces. The one thing I do worry about with Mikey is that he oversells and he strips his team down way too much. I feel like he maybe did that the first year when he started selling off his assets and tanking to get, who did he get? He tanked to get Lawrence and then to get Najee as well. I feel like he maybe traded away too many assets and he could have held on to some and that could have been good. And, maybe that explains why his bench is so bare of talent. But yeah, I mean, Zach, what are your thoughts? I mean, maybe you have a little bit more of an inside scoop with Mikey. Do you feel like he's going to come on home and jump into that rebuild and try and get into the Caleb Williams conversation? Because the big thing is the more weeks that he waits, the more impossible it becomes. Right now, he could still strip it down. I mean, we've seen McMorrow make up tremendous ground in the last couple of weeks just by trading away all his guys. And he still has Mark Andrews, Rashad White, Daniel Jones's bum ass. But we've seen him make up a ton of ground and catch up to me where I had such a big lead in my draft slot. So if Mikey starts now, he has a lot of weeks to make up that ground, not put up a lot of points, get rid of his max points for all that. But what are you thinking? Do you think your brother's going to do that?
No, I don't think he goes fully in. I don't think Burrow leaves his team. I think Joe is. His team name is after Joe. Go Tigers. I guess it technically was after Trevor Lawrence too back in the day, but he traded him for Russ. That's neither here nor
there. People do forget.
Yeah, neither here nor there.
Unlimited diarrhea.
Yeah, no, but I don't think he gets rid of Burrow. That feels like a really big price tag, like you said, deservedly so. Especially if that's going to be, one of his big moves to spring that rebuild. But I don't foresee that happening unless, Big Brain. I know they have like 5 firsts. It would make a lot of sense, but it just feels like a lot of things would have to happen. And a lot of things that I think I know about Mike Bowen changing. I think he said 4 firsts, or I want 4 similar value to firsts, and it's probably like 6 when it really gets down to it. And I don't know if that price is ever going to be matched. So
I'm going to pull up his message because in my head I really think he said six first round equivalent players or picks. That's
yeah.
my head. And
yeah,
6.
I mean, my response was just like, all right, I wasn't really asking for myself anyways. I had already made my big move for Anthony. So it's not like I was really just doing it to maybe generate some buzz, because I feel like people put guys on the block and then it's like, hey, what do you want for him? It's like, well, what are you offering? It's like, you put him on the block, you tell me. And I feel like in this league, especially, and I mean, I think in fantasy in general, I think people are just afraid to name their price because I think people are afraid that they're gonna maybe shoot too low with their initial asking price, and all of a sudden the guy will just be like, "All right, shake my hand right now, let's do it," and all of a sudden they screw themselves. But that rarely happens. I mean, the thing is, it still comes down to you either sending or accepting the trade. So it's like just say what you want. And if people think it's ridiculous and laugh you off, and that's too bad. But I mean, hopefully you're right with your evaluation of the player, and then it comes to a time where that actually is a discount. Now people are way overpaying. But yeah, I mean, I look at Mikey's roster, and it's like, I mean, who is he really stripping down? I mean, if he can actually get that package for Burrow, and especially if it's like, maybe like 24, like 2024 picks, I mean, I feel like maybe he kind of has to do it just because he does need to start filling out this roster a little bit more. But it's like, who's he trading, right? I mean, Najee and Zeke have essentially no trade value anymore. He could try and trade Godwin. I mean, Godwin's consistently productive, but he's just not a sexy name anymore. People don't want to pay up for him. Then you got Zay Flowers, you got Komet, Higbee, Gerald Everett. Those are three guys that he is starting in his lineup right now. That is crazy. He's starting 3 tight ends and then Latavius Murray. I mean, he needs Justin Fields to maybe hold on to his job so he can have those 2 quarterbacks locked down. But then beyond that, I mean, this bench, obviously he's missing Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, but like there's nothing there on the bench. He doesn't have many picks. He has his own 24 first, and then he has a 25 and a 26 as well. So, I mean, he might have to. Maybe it's not Burrow, but maybe his hand is forced and he has to trade a guy like T. Higgins to try and get multiple firsts, but he's not playing at that level right now either. So I mean, things are really tough for Go Tigers. So, I mean, I don't know where you guys have them. I don't know if
bottom.
They're in the Caleb Williams tiers.
They're in the hell tier. They're in the hell tier.
So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I don't want to put him in the Caleb Williams tier because he hasn't committed to that tank yet. And he's like pretty far off right now. Like he's really not in the running for his max points for. It's like he's kind of like it's almost like a tier break. It's like me, McMorrow, then like a small tier break in Amaral, and then like another tier break, and then it's like him. I mean, he really doesn't have that good of a shot at getting like even into the top 3 right now. So until he really strips that roster down, and like I said, he has to do it sooner rather than later if he wants to make that push for Caleb Williams. Or even Drake May. But if he wants to get into that top 3, he needs to strip it down now. So he really needs to make that decision soon. So, I mean, if we want to put him all the way at the bottom and just make it hell, I'm all for it.
This is sounding a lot like the Jeff Fisher tier because he's not in Caleb Williams territory and he's not competing territory, but I think hell is fitting.
But I think there's something. I think there's something fun about the Jeff Fisher tier. And I don't think there's anything fun about what
there's nothing fun about what's going on.
Like I think Jeff Fisher, there's a level of fun that has to be there for it to work. Mike's not Jeff Fisher. I don't want to disrespect Jeff.
Yeah, and Fisher, I mean, we'll get to your arguments in a second, Angelo, when we talk about it. But I do. I mean, I genuinely rank you above Mikey's team, so I wouldn't even want to put him in that tier with you. I think that he's straight in hell, and he pretty much needs to like repent for everything that he's done. To get out of there. I mean, he needs to just strip
you
it
had
down.
Some spice on that. You had some spice on that, hell, bro. You had some spice on
that. I mean, it's written in all caps for a reason. I'm just, I read things. I say it how I read it,
That was an HE double hockey stick.
Yeah.
That was
hell.
All right. Let's move on from Mikey's team. I feel like, I mean, we're on to my team now. We're on the foundation. I don't know if you guys have anything to add on to my team. I feel like we kind of talked through it, much like we did with the Zits when we were talking about the trade. Right now, it's kind of just what we've been saying, right? I have my foundation laid. I just have to kind of sit here and just like accept that, I'm going to get my ass absolutely beat every week. Sometimes maybe I could steal a win. Maybe I can get, a little interesting when bye weeks start to kick in. I will say something to watch. I've had a lot of bye weeks out of the way already. My running backs, assuming they stay healthy, I will not be out of running backs for the rest of the year. Knock on wood, like I said, assuming they stay healthy. And then also some news broke this week that Kyler Murray is back at practice. They're opening that window, and they expect him to play this year. And a lot of that's because it is a new coaching staff. It's a new regime, and they want to see what they have. They want to see if he's ready to go, they want to see him play. They want to see if this is the guy that they want to move forward with, or if they're going to be looking to trade him in the offseason. So I will be getting Kyler Murray back at some point in the season. There is a chance that AOC or Will Levis start getting some starts for the rest of the year. So my roster could fill out a little bit. I'm not saying I'm going to suddenly start putting up 120 points a game, but I can be more competitive on a weekly basis. Maybe I can play a little bit more of a spoiler down the stretch. So that's just something to watch. But that's really all I have to root for right now. The foundation's laid. It's all eyes on 2025. I don't know if you guys have any criticisms or compliments of my team. Angelo, Bowen, you got anything?
No, not much. I know we've already
Yeah,
kind of talked about them. So yeah,
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of been covered. So we can get into this next tier. So we were talking about Mikey being in there, but like I said, I made my argument. I don't think he's there yet. If he strips it down, he starts like really tanking, then he can have a chance. But right now he's looking at, realistically the 4th or the 5th pick. Right now, these are the teams that have a legitimate shot at getting that first overall pick. Of course, we have Slippery Pete. He has my pick, so that keeps him. He makes 2 appearances on the tier here. I think he's in the lead. Let me check. Let me double check on the max points for. I don't know if McMorrow was able to pass me this week or not. McMorrow has 536.82. I have 527. So right now, McMorrow is 9 max points for behind me. Something tells me with the way that his team's been trending. I do think, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe not this week, right? Because I might have AOC starting. So maybe this week he does pass me. Until I get Kyler Murray back, or unless I get some consistent starters at quarterback with Anthony Richardson and then Kyler Murray out, I think it will be a lot tougher for McMorrow to keep that build that lead or even get that lead. He has to get it first. So right now it is still Pete with my pick in first. We have McMorrow in second, and then Amaral is kind of in a way playing his way out of this. He's at 673 max points for. So he's right there. I mean, I guess Mikey could catch up to him. Mikey's only 20 points behind him. But 673 McMorrow, that's 140 points, max points for more than McMorrow, and then almost 150 more than me.
That's his points against. Amaral is at 489 points for.
Oh shit, was I looking at the wrong one?
Yeah, I was like, he would be contending if he had 673 points right now.
He's got 643 though. For max points for, he's got 643.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not looking at max points for.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I think I had the right. So he has 643. Mikey's got 690, but McMorrow has 536. And then right now I have 527. So I guess we might actually have to talk about Amaral even being in the Caleb Williams tier. I don't really know if he's there. I don't know if we really have the should we keep him there? Like, is he still making a run here? I mean, he's got 2 productive quarterbacks, right? I mean, he's got Baker, he's got Howell, and then he's got Ritter, who's starting to throw a bunch of times a game. Of course, he kind of stunk it up last week, but he's getting the quarterback play that's kind of playing his way out of it. Laporta's starting to hit. Tajay Spears is way more active than we expected this early on. We might have to talk about bumping him out. I mean, do we add a tier above maybe above the Caleb Williams tier?
Do you have any ideas for what that tier would look like?
I'm not sure. Hold on, let me okay. Add row above. We could always come back to it too. Wait, how the hell do I get out of that? Okay, we'll put him here. I think that's where he belongs. I think he belongs above McMorrow, and then Pete, it doesn't really count. He's just in the Caleb Williams race. Amaral's not in for it. We could come back if we don't have a name for it right now. Any ideas, Angela? You got any ideas?
He's not tanking, like he's not at the bottom.
Maybe Marvin Harrison. Maybe he's in the Marvin Harrison tier.
That's fine.
Because you got to figure it's going to be Williams, and then McMorrow's got to be going after a quarterback, I think, right? He traded away Kirk. He has DJ. He does not have a good quarterback on his roster right now. I think we just call it the Marvin
Harrison. Lightly. He's treading lightly.
Who?
Amaral. He's not tanking, but he's treading lightly.
Wait, let me see. Hold on, I'll go about this. Just make it real wordy.
Looks like one of my nicknames.
All right. Yeah, I actually think that's fair. I think that's a good move by us to bump him up because he's really not in that race, and he's definitely ahead of McMorrow's team in terms of the tanking. So I mean, if he can get this quarterback play, I mean, he could still have an opportunity to get Drake May, he could still have an opportunity to get Penix or Shador or whoever the hell else joined, Bo Nix, whoever wants it. But if he wants his first shot at receiver, and I mean, I think he definitely needs receivers, so that could really be his move. And if he trusts Howell and he trusts Ritter or Baker, if any of those guys, if just 2 of them can just hold the job on to next year, I mean, I think that puts his team in a decent spot. And he also has like a million other picks to play around with, so he can fill out his roster however he wants. So we'll keep it there. I don't think that there's really much to say about McMorrow's team or Pete's pursuit with my pick. So we can move on to this final tier, the Jeff Fisher tier. We can have our special guests here and kind of, pitch his way out of here.
I will certainly do that. So record at a glance, 2-4. I lost 1 week when Mikey was competing by 1.1 points. So that's a very narrow margin. And now his team is in a totally different direction, right? I started out with 2 stinkers out of the first 3 or 4 weeks. I then lose the following week to Zach Bowen by 6 points. I had Devon A. Chain on the bench who put up 49 points that week. So that's the difference right there. But now that we're talking about max points for, at the very top of this list, at the standard, we have we have 2 pins. The standard, they have 806 max points for. I'm 15 points behind that with 791. That's a very small margin. And again, you're just looking at the record at 2-4 versus 5-1. It doesn't look like it's close. But if we're talking about a team who has the ability to put up points, it's been my team. It's just a matter of have I played the right players each week. I don't play Devon A. Chain. He goes off. I then play him, and I don't play Zach Moss, and Zach Moss puts up 32 on my bench. So the talent's there. I'm getting younger. I'm doing the things that I've been, picked on for not doing for the last 2 years. I've gotten rid of Alvin Kamara. I got Devontae Smith. I've gotten rid of Darren Waller. Of course, my quarterback situation is always a fluctuating mid. Dak can look really good some weeks, and then other weeks he looks terrible. And then Jared Goff can be mid some weeks, and other weeks he looks like he's a really good quarterback. So, I think right now I'm out of the Jeff Fisher tier in the sense of like, what are we doing? What's the plan? I think I'm trending in the right direction, but it's a bit of luck and a bit of misfortune in terms of how I've managed my lineup. But in terms of putting up max points for, I'm in that conversation of some of the better teams in the league.
I think you make a lot of fair points. And, I think that, maybe this week has been a bit eye opening. We already talked about it a bit, but, how close you actually are to that final playoff spot. You do have a chance. And of course, if you made different managerial decisions earlier on, you might already be there. But as we've mentioned a few times on this episode, there is still what, well, I guess like 6 or 7 more weeks of the regular season left. Like you have a lot of time. You have like a month and a half to really make up that ground. And if any of these teams are in front of you, I mean, I feel like it's so easy to assume like, oh yeah, like if Angelo can do that, but like, like Simcoe and the Vibers and everybody else, they're just gonna sit there. It's like, what if like, there is an injury, or what if like one of like some of their key players just start playing like shit and they start falling off, and you just kind of keep it steady and you start, playing the right combinations and really maxing out your potential lineups and everything like that. All of a sudden you're in it. So I do think that you made a good argument to bump yourself up. And I think that we can rename the tier. Maybe we can keep the tier empty. We can keep the tier there. And it's just kind of there. It's kind of like a jail and like capture the flag or something. Like, if a team starts kind of just being mid with no direction, we can just throw them in there. So we can leave the tier there, but maybe we can give you a new tier and maybe bump you up a little bit. What do you think? Where do you think that you belong?
I mean, last 2 weeks, I scored 130 or 127 points last week, and I scored 136 the week before. And those are my 2 wins on the season. And I've lost 2 really close matchups, and I've had 2 absolute stinkers.
Could I put out just an idea?
Yeah,
please.
I think I'm cooking with something.
Please do.
I think for the sake of the tiers and like the wow factor on these tiers on this particular tier, I think Jeff Fisher has to stay. But out of a show of respect, because I think you made some really, really good points. And because you're in the playoff hunt, like you said, bump them all the way up above Pete.
that's exactly where I
But
think.
still Jeff Fisher, but like the high, like Jeff Fisher's all about ebbs and flows, like some really, really high, some really, really highs, some really, really lows. I can't in good faith say that you're not Jeff Fisher still. But I think you're above the teams that are kind of, trending towards not being in the mix for the playoffs. So I think for 2023 and beyond right now, Jeff Fisher should be right in the middle, right where he should be.
And I will say that when we were talking about Mikey's team and I said he's in the Jeff Fisher class, you said, no, don't disrespect Jeff Fisher like that. So that
No,
makes me
put some
feel,
respect on Jeff. Like,
yeah,
it's not
that
the
makes me
bottom.
feel a little bit better about, the
Jeff Fisher
insinuation of
did make an
things that
AFC championship. He did have his day. Maybe we can spice up the tier a little bit. I'm actually gonna add a sub tier, little parentheses here. I'm gonna go sneaky. Because you're
Yeah,
very sneaky here. A lot
I
of
think
people just
so.
assume that your team was like stinking up the place. And then I feel like you've opened everybody's eyes here and just shown that it's a lot closer than we thought.
We're not. But I see why everyone was frustrated though. Like in my head, when you said tug of war, that's literally. I feel like my team is the flag, and I am at the midline, and I'm either going to get pulled back a little bit, or I'm going to go over that hump. But we're right there, right? Like we have the talent, we can put up points. We've had some pretty unfortunate matchups, but like we're there and we're trending in the right direction. So even 2 weeks ago when we started kind of making these moves to quote unquote start blowing up the team, well, we moved these two guys and now we start scoring 130 points a week.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's you plan for one thing and you get another.
Yeah, and
So
also, I mean, like you and Pete have the same amount of wins, but you're outscoring him by 60. So just in the playoff race, you are literally ahead of him. And then as we pointed out, I mean, you're about 50 points behind both Big Brain and Simcoe. So it's like, I mean, if either one of them, I mean, it could be both of them. If Wallace goes on a run and he takes the division lead, then all of a sudden you have two teams that you're chasing on. It's like I feel like that actually increases your odds. It's like, okay, you need one of these two teams to fuck up instead of just relying on one to fuck up. So I mean, yeah, I mean, you're sneaky in the conversation. Jeff Fisher, like we've said, he's had his good seasons as well, so it doesn't always have to be a negative connotation. Jeff
It's
Fisher
gonna be
did
really,
pop.
really hard to shake that Jeff Fisher tier. Once you get put in the Jeff Fisher tier, unless you do something like really, really good or really, really bad, I think you almost are stuck there.
Well, and
For the
that's why it's
foreseeable.
almost kind of fitting that they're right below the Omaha tier as well, because it's two tiers of teams where it's like we can give you your respect and we can admit when you're doing a good job or anything, but we just forgive us for wanting to see proof that you guys are different. So
I don't blame you.
it's been a couple years now where we say, oh, you guys are stuck in the middle, stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Ironically, you guys are ranked right in the middle here again. So I guess maybe that's fitting for the Jeff Fisher tier as well. But I mean, hey, we were disrespecting you, and the apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect. And we'll give you your flowers. And you guys are putting together a much better season than I think a lot of people would instinctively give you credit for.
Thank you. And I think we have always been in the middle. We inherited this team that 40 drafted with CD Lamb as the first overall pick. It's been hard to make moves. We have been rookies to dynasty, but I think year 3 now we're hitting our stride. We kind of know where we want to go. We know who we are. We know who we want to be. And honestly, we are fittingly beneath the Omaha team here with Big Brain, because if Big Brain has J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb and the other running backs that they're losing, then they're a wagon. But at this point, they're not, and now their weaknesses are showing with quarterback. And I think my weakness is like there is no third quarterback on our team. But our weakness, the general consensus was we're old and we hang on to these players and we run them into the ground. We're finally getting that turnover that we want to see, and our young guys are exploding. ETN is looking like an absolute stud right now. So yeah, I think it's all fitting.
Yeah, and I think it is worth paying respect to that stable of running backs that you're starting to build. I feel like it's almost kind of counterculture right now. I feel like a lot of people are looking at kind of that two pins model of going light on running backs and then maybe making big trades for a running back at like the deadline or something. And then you guys are, sticking to, what we've seen put up a lot of points, and that's putting a bunch of running backs together, and you guys have ETN, who is emerging as like a fantasy star. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's gotten off to an underwhelming start, but of course he has the draft capital, he has the profile, and he has high expectations. Who's the other guy? Yeah, who am I playing? You have A-Chain, who has been, unbelievable, put up a 50 fucking point week in like his first like real game. So it's like
And
you
then
guys are putting together like
25. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
99 points for a 3-week stretch is the highest of any running back, I believe, in 3 consecutive games.
yeah,
And
I
that's from a
believe it. So it's
rookie
like I
who
mean, you
was
guys are
getting
putting together like a good young team, and yeah, I mean, I think as long as things start to pan out, you have your own pick as well. So even if it's not this year, you guys do have the facilities to put together, something else too. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a great place to put it. And that wraps up our tiers. I don't know if you guys have any closing comments. But all right, so we'll call it there.
We gotta get Bo. We gotta get Bo in an easy hat. We're looking real Dapper Dan here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. We'll
I
start.
feel
We'll
I
start
got
really
you, I
having it.
got you.
And we'll start rolling it out. Maybe we'll get like an easy banner to put on like the bottom of the show or something like that. We'll start
Fuck
working
yeah.
for some stuff. But
Okay.
all right, that's this week's episode. The power ranking tiers. I believe that is 3.0. It's week 7. I'll get this edited to get out, but as always, I'll take a nice screenshot and send it immediately to the league chat and get some reactions. I kind of like sending it out beforehand, getting people mad before they even hear our thoughts on it. I think that that's really the best way to go. So Angelo, Bowen, thank you for coming on. We'd love to mix you guys in. Hope to have you guys on in future weeks, and we will have Slip Repeat back next week. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
Love you.